So GameStop, over the course of the past few days, we've seen their stock completely surge, and it's become this national topic of how exactly did it become that one of the failed game stores of the last few years has become the biggest talk in the stock market. So I'm going to basically go into the details of exactly how that happened, why it happened. But first, to give you a little bit of the story of how this started. So GameStop's value for their stock, or the dollar amount per stock basically, was under $5. They have filed bankruptcy multiple times. They used to be pretty big, but a lot of bad policies, the fact that they never really had games in their stores, a lot of brick and mortar locations when right now people buy games online primarily. All of that basically contributed to GameStop being a failed business. They were effectively going to go out of business anyways. And believe it or not, with the way that the stock market works is that there are certain hedge fund companies that effectively can make money out of the failure of a business, such as GameStop and many others. So they were already going out of business, and effectively what happened is that the stock value soared. It increased 8,000% compared to only a few months ago. And this is a quote from Business Insider saying between January 20th and January 26th, GameStop's stock value leaped just over $35 per share to north of $140 per share. And then by January 27th, it hit new highs of over $325 per share. That is a massive increase. I mean, if you had a few $1,000s invested in GameStop for whatever reason at the time, you made a ton of money off of this. So the shares rose 157% to a session high of $380 per share shortly after 11 a.m. So it was already just insane as far as what you were getting out of this if you were invested in GameStop. So why did this happen? Believe it or not, it actually had nothing to do with GameStop themselves. GameStop didn't make some press release or new announcement of a new venture that they were going on. It actually, they didn't do anything at all. What actually happened is this all was stirred up from a subreddit called Wall Street Bets. And this is on Reddit. This is basically a forum. And it was a collection of members that got together and they basically look at the stock market. They look at what other big investors are doing and basically make determinations off of that. So what effectively caused all of this uproar is that one of the Redditors effectively looked at a hedge fund company, which is effectively just a company that invests money into or buys stock, expecting it to fail, usually. So when they wind up doing this, they're able to make money out of it when they basically sell the stock back to their broker. And that's how they run their entire business. But this Redditor found that this company had basically bought a ton of shares in GameStop against them. Basically, they bought shares when the price was higher and knowing that it was going to be lower so that they could sell them back for a cheaper price. So effectively what happened is Elon Musk even tweeted out this subreddit link, which caused the whole thing to get even more attention, believe it or not. And then effectively, this has turned into a battle between regular people and the suits, the people that are the hedge fund managers, and that's all they do is effectively play the stock market in their favor. So what happened? All of this was done because the Wall Street Bets effectively got all of their users to invest in GameStop out of nowhere. And what that winds up doing is that it raises the stock price of what GameStop is set at. And so those hedge fund managers previously before were betting on GameStop's stock prices going down and then banking on it. It actually went and skyrocketed, which means that all of a sudden the shares that they had were going to cost them a lot more money to basically pay back. So they wound up losing billions of dollars, so much money. In fact, it says the amount of their losses surpassed $13 billion. That's more than what the hedge fund is actually even worth totally, which means they had to file bankruptcy themselves. And then eventually they had to close their short positions, buy all of the GameStop stock back at much higher prices, sending the price even higher from there. This is oftentimes called a short squeeze. Basically, when they aren't able to make the money off of the stocks that they had previously borrowed. So now the hedge funds with massive is dealing with a massive short exposure, so they can short squeeze them into bankruptcy as well. That's what the Redditors are now looking at doing. They've already done it with a few of these hedge fund people and places, and they're looking at expanding that now to even more, which is crazy at this point. Like it's actually pretty cool, and I think, and I'll get into a little bit more of the details on that later, but it says that all of Wall Street is saying that the public is joining together in this fashion should be illegal. Wall Street doesn't like this. They don't want all of these people joining together to fight back against the big hedge fund people that are profiting off of the failure and success of different businesses. So they, you know, and of course the Redditors and the people that are investing in this stuff are saying, well, they lost at their own game. I mean, they play this game too. They play these businesses. They set things up because they knew that the GameStop price was going to go down, and they basically bet against them effectively. So how is the media treating this situation? The media is treating this as a bunch of alt-right trolls and pretty much everything else under the book. Of course, that's their kind of go-to now. If anything happens that's against the corporate elites or anything like that, all of a sudden you're now a white supremacist. You are alt-right. You're doing things that, although have nothing to do with race, that's the way they're going to pin this. Keep in mind that Reddit is a very liberal site. They banned the Donald and a bunch of other subreddits that were even remotely pro-Trump. If you go to the subreddit r/politics, it's entirely run by Democrats, left-wing people. There's not one piece of good news for Trump on that entire Reddit page. And yet there's claiming somehow that this is just a bunch of people that are on the right. That doesn't make any sense. The fact is that this is free market activity working against people that are also investing in the free market. I mean, that's really what this is about. They beat them at their own game. And the hedge fund places are obviously upset because they don't like the fact that a online group or community can swing a bunch of their money away from them and influence the market in such a massive capacity. You just watched a clip from the William Hall Show. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe.